voiced their opinion. Certainly, Mr. Mayor, I know it's been a difficult situation for you and your staff, and I understand your position as well. You know, some of the concerns that I would raise, number one, we've already decided for 2 other unions that they were going to be given back the 5%. You know, I would find it very difficult to now say to all of the remaining unions, let's do 1%, let's do 2%. You know, it has been our practice over time to try and treat everyone as equal as possible. And when we made those decisions have applied to all of the unions. I'm intrigued by the idea of looking at the trust funds and being able to perhaps look at what David Morris had talked about in order to try and leverage whatever amount would come out of there to take care of returning returning the 5% back to our employees. So I'm intrigued by that model and that possibility. Clearly, you know, whatever happens, you know, if the 5% is returned in October, you know, the new contract would fall into place. So everything would be open and all of the contract would be up. Is that right, Mr. Attorney?
Well, the current contract would expire. If you give the 5%, that, along with the rest of the conditions in the collective bargaining agreement, become the status quo. Okay. And would remain in effect until you negotiate a new collective bargaining agreement.
And I wanted to go down that line of questioning. And so is there a minimum amount of time that is prescribed for going through the collective bargaining procedure?
No, there's no minimum amount of time. The negotiation process, as you've seen, it's flexible. So the answer is no minimum amount of time.
And who determines when the item lands in our lap if no agreement is reached?
Well, we go through the process of negotiations. After a certain amount of negotiation, either party can declare impasse, and when that happens, we can do one of two things. But the parties can agree to go through straight to the county commission, or the parties can go through the special magistrate process, and then it'll end up with the county commission.
And it only takes one party to declare impasse for then the impasse procedure to kick in?
Correct.
Okay. Traditionally, about how much time does it take to go through the arbitration process if that is the route that is chosen?
Through the magistrate process, you can go 2 to 3 months, maybe 4. It really is difficult to give you a precise figure, Commissioner, but it could go 3, 4, sometimes 5. It depends. It depends on a lot of different factors.
Who determines when the magistrate process ends? Is it the magistrate? Or?
Right. There'll be a hearing before the magistrate. Magistrate would then have, I think, 30 days to issue his recommendations, and then those recommendations would come before you.
And the reason why I'm asking that question is, again, trying to sort of walk back, you know, in terms of, you know, when would we have to really have everything, you know, addressed and looked at, so that if there is a magistrate process, that process could go forward rather. And then the item would come back to us in time for us to make a decision in terms of the new budgeting cycle for next year.
All I can say to that, Commissioner, is that the sooner the better. I mean, this process, it takes time, as you've seen over the years, and it's tough to get it before this commission on a date certain. It really is difficult, but the sooner the parties get together and start negotiating, the quicker we can get to that end
to the administration, in reference to, looking at how much would come out of the general fund again to fund the unions through starting January through September. The numbers that were thrown out, I believe, were like $60 million. Is that correct? 56 million?
60 million total, not the general fund. General fund, I think, is like $28 million.
Okay, so the general fund is 28 million.
That's correct.
Okay. What I thought I heard you say, Mr. Mayor, was that in terms of the proprietary departments, that those departments would not be in as much of a strain, if you will, because they have resources, and the problem would be the general fund.
Proprietary departments are in better condition and in better future condition than our general fund departments. That's a matter of fact. If you increase expenses in the proprietary departments, then depending on their source of revenue, water and sewer, that means the rates for the ratepayers may have to go up. In the case of solid waste, like we've already seen, the rates for solid waste would go up. But in terms of their financial ability right now, they're in much better condition than the general fund. The general fund, both general fund and UMSA, fire and library, are the main issues that will be facing us next year.
So if the 5% was returned for the next 9 months, or from January through the end of the collective bargaining agreements that are in place right now, there could very well be some serious negotiations with the unions in terms of how do we cover the structural problem that we have going forward. Is that correct?
Only if the signal from this commission is that you are serious about negotiating with them. If you give them a signal that anything that comes before you, they'd rather deal with you, then I don't think we're going to.
All right, folks.
Look, in order for us to have serious negotiations, the administration with the unions, the signal has to come from this board that you're willing to back up the administration. If you don't, then why in the world are they going to be negotiating with me? Because at the end, it'll come back to you anyway.
Well, I think in the past, that the commission has demonstrated, the ability to take a stand. I mean, that's the way that we got concessions early on. We supported, those concessions. And if we did not support those concessions, then there would have been some other issues. So I think the commission has the capacity to do that. The will is there. The commission has it, to basically make folks understand that there would have to be some serious negotiations. If you get something back now, you're going to have to sit at the table and come up with something that's going to be viable from a structural standpoint going forward.
Commissioner, that's what I said, that the signal has to come from this board, that you're serious about it. If it doesn't come from this board, then why in the world would the union negotiate with me? Because they're going to come to you. And so unless this board projects a signal to the unions that you're serious about taking care of the structural issues that we have, then that's just human nature. I mean, why am I going to be dealing with somebody who wants to do certain things when, in fact, I can go to somebody else, another entity within this county, and get a better deal? And so that is just reality. And if they don't want to hear about it, well, that's too bad, because that is the reality. All right? And so what this board has to do sometime in the coming months is demonstrate a willingness and a seriousness to tackle the structural problem that we have, and then we can do some negotiations, I believe. If not, then why are they going to negotiate with me?
Mark, let me ask you a question, and I hope that you were able to follow my line of thought, and is that if we give the 5% back now, as we have given to the other two unions, there's a come to point where the structural issues are going to have to be dealt with, or this commission is going to have to be willing to raise taxes, and so I'd like to get your take on it briefly,
Yes,
because in supporting the 5%, again, something has got to be done. We can't continue to operate this way. We got to either raise taxes or we got to do something else.
Sure.
And, I think we have to be realistic about what the willingness is on the part of this board to do.
Yeah, Commissioner, it's a very fair question, and what I would ask you to do is look at his feet and look at our feet. He declared impasse on most of these contracts after one session. We have been with former mayors and former county managers to be able to reach deals. I've been doing this for 30-some years. We didn't even have impasses through the 70s and 80s. I don't even know when the first impasse was around here. It might have been in the 90s. The union showed up and negotiated the 5%. He's been the one impossible to deal with. You want to just be blunt here?
Well, let's
wait, let me say
but no. I have the floor, okay?
Okay, yes, sir.
And let me just say, I don't want the he stuff.
Okay.
You say the administration, and that's okay.
Fair enough. The administration declared impasse on most of the unions. They did it after one session in some of the unions. The administration staff told us they were so afraid of the 29th floor, they only had a 0. We asked, did you have anything else? Nothing. Then we asked them, literally, and we've sent a lot of signals, what are we going to do here? And they basically said, it's going to go to the commission. Now remember, the 5% was coming back no matter what, unless they sent it to this commission. That's what the language says. They chose the impasse. They chose to skip the magistrate. It was in the language that they requested. They chose to declare impasse after one session. They even called us and said, would you just show up so we can declare the impasse? They called us.
So why would the unions agree to that?
We had
to skip
the magistrate?
The magistrate.
Because we believed in our heart of hearts that when we invested, our money would be used wisely, would be equal, and it would be temporary. We believe this originally started under a different mayor. When Stierheim was here, whenever we went through hard times, until this administration, people kept their word. They kept their word. And now we hear, when is it coming, 14, 18? Of course we're going to be serious in negotiations. To answer your first question, we could be here before easily the budget year or the fiscal year. Their law does not prohibit any of that. Are we able to make hard choices? Of course, we did the 5%. Look at how Mr. Magoya rolled up his sleeve with Martha at Jackson, and we put PIC lines in. We've lowered infection rates. We've lowered days of length of stay. We've saved money there. Carvalho has done it with the teachers union. Padron has done it at the college. Isn't it saying volumes to you that the one place we can't do it is with this administration? Now let's just lay the cards on the table. It's no, it's always no, and then a fake thing to you. You have to send the message when he put us, the administration put us here. So we're always serious. We gave the 5% voluntarily. We went through gain sharing, signed off memos, and you want to fix structural changes? Tell them, what are you going to do about the cars that are sitting? What are you going to do, what he raised, Commissioner Suarez, of all those excessive salaries at the top? Structure can come in 3 ways. You can raise income. That may or may not be the right thing to do. You can go to the public and have an honest discussion. If you don't want income raised, you may not get the same services. And thirdly, you can roll up your sleeve, as Commissioner Hayman has said for about 6 years, and go item by item and find every penny of waste before you go into people's pockets. No, I've heard of 0 commitment on any of the things on waste. 0. Never a commitment. Maybe all our ideas are wrong. Jackson went in to look for it, and they've been turning the key on saving money on IV lines, what are called PIC lines. We can't even begin to tell you some of the miracles that have gone over there. What happened there? Joined forces. What happened there? Partnership. What happened there? A public voting in the high 60s for an $800 million bond. What happened at Dade County Schools? Multi-million-dollar bond. Partnership. Y'all got to sit there and look at your labor relations. It's a mess.